Good morning. As Cameron mentioned, my name is Bech Bruun. I'm Chairman of the Texas Water Development Board. I've been in the role as a board member since late 2013. Cameron mentioned the fact that Governor Abbott did designate me as chairman earlier this year. Going back to two legislative sessions ago, House Bill 4 passed in the 83rd legislature early 2013, which changed the governing structure of our agency. So the board has been around since 1957, but it's only been since late 2013 that we have been governed by 3 full-time board members. So this is my job, and I really enjoy it. I view my main role as a board member as being my responsibility to promote our agency as the resource that it is across the state for anything related to water. And I want to cover what we do generally and break out what we're going to discuss today. And I say we're a resource. I want to focus on that. We are a state agency. We are not a regulatory agency. So we are not TCEQ. It's not our role as an agency to regulate or direct you in how you manage your water. But we're here to help, and that's why we were established in 1957 by the legislature as a result of the 1950 drought of record. And we'll break out what we do today in a discussion about the banking side of our business. We are a multi-billion-dollar water infrastructure bank. So we provide financial assistance in the form of low-interest loans for new water supply projects as well as existing infrastructure. We are the state's water planner. We develop a state water plan every 5 years, and we'll talk a little bit about that and how that's done through 16 regional water planning groups. But we're also very involved in groundwater, on the science side of groundwater, and the acronym, the GAM, the Groundwater Availability Models that are used across the state by groundwater districts so that they can manage the resource. A lot of that data is housed with us, and we have hydrologists, scientists that work continually to improve that data so that it can be put to use by the groundwater districts across the state that ultimately can help you in managing the resource. Just a quick, usually like to start off by talking about the drought. This has certainly been the topic of main focus in our world going back to 2011. It really is what prompted the legislature to take the action it did in 2013 to change the governance of our board. And what the question I get a lot today or these days is, well, okay, there's no drought in the state, so what are you doing at the Texas Water Development Board? And back in 2011, I worked at the Brazos River. Cameron mentioned I worked for a large wholesale water provider. The BRA has a little over 700,000 acre-feet of water rights through 11 reservoirs in the Brazos Basin that they use to sell water, mainly to municipalities. And over the course of 2011, I watched this occur from my seat at the BRA. Everyone knows, we all know now that 2011 was the worst one-year drought in our recorded Texas history. So the map there on the right is what it looked like. So this, of course, most of us are familiar with this map, the U.S. Drought Monitor map for Texas. Late 2011, almost the entire state was an exceptional drought. But if you go back to a year before, in late 2010, well, that map does not look very much different from what the drought-free state map looks like today. And so I like to bring that up and just remind everyone of that. What we face in my business as we try to work with our stakeholders and customers around the state, the main challenges, in my view, are complacency and cost. We have short memories, and I do believe in a large way that the experience of 2011 still resonates with many water providers across the state, and we're seeing that action is being taken through our state water planning process, which I'll touch on here in a minute. But when I'm asked, how I feel about there not being any drought in Texas, I'm very quick to say, well, not so fast. There are many folks out in West Texas that would be offended to hear you say that there's no drought in Texas right now. And despite the fact that 2015 was the wettest year on record. Our folks, some of our hydrologists that closely monitor this data, I asked them to give me some current and sort of high-level interesting talking points about the total amount of rain that fell in 2015 since we just are starting in this new year. And 2015, wettest year on record. May of 2015, wettest May on record. If you could take all the rain that fell in the state in May and cover the entire state of Texas in 8 inches of water. Roughly 590 million acre-feet of water fell in Texas in 2015. That much water would fill up all of our reservoirs in the state 16 times over. It would fill up Lake Erie over 1.5 times. And this was I thought, an interesting talking point as well. If all that rain were to have fallen as beer, we could meet current U.S. beer drinking needs for more than 30,000 years. 30,617 years. That is a lot of beer. Mother could probably take that on. So again, the point of this map, and this is current, most of the reservoirs, I-35 East, are doing very well. Full, if not mostly full. But of course, folks down south of here, San Angelo, I've got family in Ballinger that's a town that relies heavily on OHIV reservoir. It's a large reservoir that's sitting at 12% full right now. So during times of plenty, whether it's times of plenty or times of drought, I think we're still going to see that we have needs in the state that we'll need to address. And again, I mentioned the fact that one of the ways we do that at the board, one of the main ways we do that, and why we were created, was to serve as a bank. So since 1957, we have provided in total over $19 billion in financial assistance. When we say financial assistance, we are talking mainly loan. We are able to offer some money in the form of grant. But this map just gives you an idea of where the money has been lent or granted to the tune of that $19 billion. I did want to touch on some of the programs that we have. I'll talk about the SWIFT, and if you've heard me speak before, at least in the last year or two, most of what we've been talking about at the board is the new SWIFT program. This goes back to the passage of Proposition 6 on a statewide ballot by voters in late 2013 that allows for $2 billion to be moved into this new fund. That's the one that's noted there on the bottom of the wheel here. But the SWIFT is just one of several programs that we have that has allowed us over time to tally up to that $19 billion number. One I will point out here is the Texas Agriculture Water Conservation Bond Program. Cameron Turner, who you know is the lead for this program. Through this program, we're able to offer loans as well as some grant, which I'll talk about later as well. And typically what this has looked like in the past, in early 2014, we loaned $2 million to the Panhandle Groundwater Conservation District, who in turn was able to offer that money in the form of basically interest-free loan to producers in the district that wanted to upgrade equipment. And so they've participated in as well. High Plains in the past has participated in taking money or borrowing money from this program to then be able to loan out to their producers. Some of the other programs here where you see SRF or State Revolving Funds, those are programs that are really set up and designed to assist with existing infrastructure. Most of our customers, almost all of our customers, when it comes to this financial assistance, will look like water providers, cities, water utilities. The current state water plan says that if you're looking 50 years out, the cost of us not just making sure we have new water or the new water we will need to meet demands on a 50-year planning horizon, but to keep up with all the infrastructure that we have today. That price tag is $231 billion. So I suspect that many of you live in a city, or maybe it might be a small rural community, or it could be the city of Lubbock. Regardless of the size, if you live in an area where you have a public water system, that town, that city will inevitably have needs in the way of not just new water supplies, but especially existing infrastructure, and these programs are set up to do that as well. I just wanted to pick out a few examples of some entities in the area here that have come in and taken advantage of these programs in the past. So you've got the Rawls there, that was SRF, so that's they were doing upgrades to a existing wastewater system. Smith Management Services is a water supply corporation. White River Municipal Water District used our drinking water SRF. That was for an upgrade in their drinking water system, and the town of Anton recently came in and borrowed $3 million. There on the bottom is noted the savings. And for certain programs, we are able to offer what we call loan forgiveness, which basically is grant. It's relatively small, very small percentage of what we're able to do. Typically, it is reserved for entities that would qualify as either a very small system, it might be an emergency supply issue, or they could qualify as under a formula that calculates economically distressed areas. But the main reason why there's across-the-board savings for any of these towns or cities that would borrow money from us is the fact that all of our programs at the Texas Water Development Board are rated AAA. That means that we're able to pass on the benefit of that rating to the borrower. And I had a conversation with the financial advisor for the city of Anton. And whether or not this is in fact the case, this is what he relayed to me. It was that if there were not a Texas Water Development Board, Anton would not have been able to go borrow $3 million in the private market. So we were not, I would say, established to become a financer of last resort for certain entities, but in some cases, we have turned out to be that. I mentioned we've been doing this since 1957. In that time, we have never had a default. I mean, it was $19 billion, mostly loaned, not one single default over the course of that time. So that's really important and allows us to maintain those AAA credit ratings, which allows us to pass along those financing savings to our customers. But that's just a little bit of a snapshot example of some cities in the area that are taking advantage. I'll touch on the SWIFT here real quickly, though. I mentioned the fact there was $2 billion voter authorized that moved money into this new fund. We will go sell revenue bonds, typically in the fall of every year moving forward, to be able to then loan those proceeds to projects. These have to be projects that are identified in our state water plan. So we're talking about new water supply projects. The legislature said, take this $2 billion and leverage it so that over the course of 50 years, you're providing upwards of $27 billion in financial assistance. We could spend hours going into the technical process for how this works. So I don't want to bore you with that. The main point is that in the first year, and that's what this represents here, of having the SWIFT program, we were able to loan the total there is a little less than $900 million. We're not able to offer any grant to this program, but we provided roughly $900 million, mostly in the form of low-interest loan from a AAA rated program. The map there gives you an idea of where the projects came from. This round of financing represented 20 entities, 30 state water plan projects. The types of projects ranged from just about anything you might think about when you think about new water supply projects: reservoirs, pipelines, desal plants. We did have an irrigation district in the valley that borrowed money to line irrigation canals. We had the city of Houston and DFW's probably largest new water supply projects on the books came in and took advantage of the program. But the city of Marfa came in and took advantage of this program as well. This is just a little bit of a snapshot. I mentioned the fact that there were 20 entities, so if this were a full list, it would show you all 20, and it would, on the right there, will show you the amount that they saved through this program of financing. But there's not enough room on the slide to be able to make it big enough for you to be able to read the numbers. So the main point is $900 million was offered in the first year. An example there at the top, Tarrant Regional Water District. This was that DFW project I mentioned. And this represented the largest project that was in this round of financing, a $440 million pipeline. Tarrant Regional Water District is AAA rated on their own. So if they wanted to, they could go out in the private market and borrow $440 million as a AAA rated entity and probably get good financing, get a low interest rate. Let's just say, 4% in the current market. The benefit of our program with the SWIFT is that we're able to gradually to draw from that $2 billion fund in a way that allows us to provide subsidies to these loans that can buy down the interest rate. So that's what Tarrant Regional took advantage of. They wanted to do a 30-year loan, which meant we were able to knock off 22% or give them a 22% discount on the AAA rated rate, which ultimately saved them on a $440 million loan. They saved a little less than $60 million. And that's again, Tarrant Regional, that's a AAA rated entity. The city of Marfa is not rated. So what's not shown here that really is a significant benefit of this program is that if Marfa had to go borrow money in the private market on their own, I couldn't estimate or give you a number as to what they would be borrowing as far as interest. But they're able to utilize this program, a board program that's rated AAA, and take advantage of that as well. So, they saved roughly, it was a $700,000 project. So, Tarrant Regional represented the largest project that took advantage of this first round. Marfa represented the smallest. And you can see Marfa saved about $87,000 to $88,000 on a $700,000 loan. It's hard to get excited about municipal finance, right? I mean, I talk about this all the time. I'm a lawyer, trained as a lawyer, who now is thrown into this role of being a banker for the state. I apologize for both. But this is important. This is very important because Tarrant Regional, they were going to have to go borrow that money. The city of Marfa, they needed that groundwater well, and they were not going to be able, or I guess they could, but how would they raise $700,000 to go out and pay for that well? So most water providers in the state typically have to go, are managing their costs through some form of borrowing, through bonding projects, and the benefit of this program is they're going to be able to save them money when they inevitably have to go out and do so. And those savings are passed along to the ratepayers. Everyone, I think, across the state has a general feeling and understanding that water is going to become more expensive. And the $231 billion number, I think, is a testament to that. But we're able to ease the blow in a way. And so that's why we talk about and promote these programs. So shifting gears away from finance. So we can take a breath from that. I want to talk about some of the resources we have when it comes to groundwater. Go back in and go back to the very beginning, and a point that I'll probably make several times over the course of the next few minutes is the fact that we are not a regulatory entity. But we are a repository for a tremendous amount of groundwater data that is used to conduct regional scale groundwater modeling. I mentioned the groundwater availability models that go into the decisions that are made at the district level when it comes to permitting. If you go to our website, twdb.texas.gov, you will find a tremendous amount of information. Some of it may scare you a little bit as to the extent of the data that we have, but we have information on roughly over 140,000 groundwater wells across the state. This could be data that was derived through reports that have been made to groundwater conservation districts or through water well drillers reports that are required by a different agency, TDLR. But we pull all this information together. I mentioned the fact that we have hydrologists that are continually working to improve those models so that we have a better understanding when it comes to groundwater as to exactly where the water is, what's there, so that we can better manage it for the future. We're also involved with reviewing and approving groundwater management plans. So you may be familiar with the GMA process, the fact that all the groundwater conservation districts in the state fall into one of 16 GMAs, where they work together to establish desired future conditions for aquifers. So we are involved in assisting on the technical side of how those DFCs are generated. And then we do review and approve groundwater management plans per statute. I mentioned the website. Here's a snapshot. And this was Lubbock's somewhere in the middle there. So this is where we are here. But this gives you just an idea of when you go into our website, how much information is there and what it can look like. And each one of these dots represents either a well report or data on a well that we have from another source. And you can click on the dot and see exactly what it is. There's well reporting, tracking, well number, proposed use. There's a great deal of information here. I know High Plains has a system that's very similar to this, but we've got this available to you that's at the state level, statewide level. There's also these educational videos and other resources on the groundwater page that I think you might find interesting. It speaks to studies that we've done across the state on different aquifers, things that are ongoing. So I encourage you to take a look at that. I think you might find that interesting. I want to touch on some current events. So shifting away from the financing side and the groundwater side of what we do, this is an opportunity for me to touch on our involvement in developing the state water plan in a way that also gives you a little bit of an update on where we are in time when it comes to the new state water plan. So we put together a new state water plan every 5 years as a state. And really what the state water plan is a compilation of 16 regional water plans. So some of you might be familiar with or have even participated in the regional water planning process. There are 16 regions across the state. As I mentioned, that we lettered them A through P. And the Llano Estacado region is Region O here in Lubbock. And so really what happens at this level, at this regional water planning group level, the bullet points there just give you an idea of who all per statute is to be represented on the group. Each of the groups looks a little different and over time have developed their own rules for how they operate. But at the base level, all these groups have to be represented. That includes agriculture, groundwater conservation districts. And they're tasked with pulling together all the water management strategies or projects that region thinks that they will need to address and take care of all the future water needs on a 50-year planning horizon for that region. And this gets down to the county level. It gets down to a water user level. It gets very detailed in how we're assigning specific strategies to take care of specific demands and cover various sectors from municipal needs to agricultural needs. I mentioned where we are in time we're about to have our new state water plan. 2012 was the most current version of the plan. Those regional water planning groups, just at the end of this last year, sent to the board their 2016 regional plans that will now roll into the 2017 state water plan. And we're planning to actually finish the 2017 state water plan earlier than we have in previous cycles. It should be done by late summer. It's important, and one of the main reasons why we're pushing to get that done sooner than later is that going back to the discussion on the SWIFT is tied to projects that are identified in the state water plan. So before we go out for the second round of SWIFT financing, we want it to be tied to the newest and best and most current state water plan. Just a couple highlights, and the folks that work on this at the agency they get nervous about giving us information before it's all tied together and finalized. But since we have adopted the 16 regional plans, we have a decent idea of what it's going to look like as far as the price tag and the cost of the plan. The $231 billion from the 2012 plan was anything and everything from new water supply to existing infrastructure. If you broke out the new water supply, part of that, the 2012 state water plan cost $53 billion new water. It looks like the 2017 plan is going to go from $53 billion to $63 billion. And one of the main reasons why we think that's probably happening, it's probably not a shocker that as the plans progress, they do become more expensive over time. But the 2012 plan had in the range of 2,000 water management strategies, 2,000 projects, and this new plan looks like it's going to have more like 3,000 projects. So there's going to be a lot more to the 2017 plan, and we'll have that out again summer of this year. Another item I think of interest and note that we've been working on just at the board meeting a couple weeks ago, we authorized our executive administrator to put out $2 million worth of contract work for our BRACS studies. And BRACS is an acronym for Brackish Resources Aquifer Characterization System. This last session, House Bill 30 was passed, and it directed the board to basically move up in time work that we had already been doing, some ongoing work we had been doing to study brackish aquifers in different parts of the state. And they gave us some extra money to do so, to the tune of that $2 million I mentioned. I suspect that brackish groundwater, the ability to develop brackish groundwater to put to use as a part of our water supply will continue to be of interest to the next Texas legislature and beyond. One of the main focuses and points of this study is for us to get a better idea of where that brackish water is. So ideally, where there are what is described as brackish zones, where brackish groundwater could be developed and placed in a way where it would not interact with freshwater aquifers, ideally. I heard a presentation at a conference last year where the presenter, he was citing a study, I think that was done by UT sometime in the last couple of years, about brackish groundwater in the state. And the number was 2.7 billion acre feet of brackish groundwater, which is a huge number. But he had a big pie chart, and then he had a little slice of it that said, but maybe only 8 million acre feet of that is really economically feasible to be developed. And I look at 8 million as a state water planner. 8 million acre feet is not a small number. 2.7 billion feet is a huge number. 8 million acre feet is significant. So if these studies and this investment can go towards identifying these zones and giving us places where we can develop this brackish water, I think that, again, the legislature is going to be very interested in us finding ways to go do that. And going back to that, the map with the reservoirs that showed the red dots to the south of here, I mentioned Ballinger. There are small rural towns in West Texas that are finding themselves on an island of sorts because they have been reliant on surface water and reservoirs that have not filled back up. And long term, they're not going to be able to continue to rely on those reservoirs. So they're going to have to find some other source. And if there's brackish water there, we need to help them get to it. Just real quick here, I think this is my last slide. Mention the fact, going back to some discussion of our Ag Water Conservation Loan and Grant Program. At a recent board meeting, we also authorized the executive administrator to put out a request for applications for this year's round of grant money that we are offering through that program. We offer $600,000 a fiscal year, and this describes the different categories for which we put this request out. And the applications are due by February 17th. Applicant does need to be a political subdivision of the state. So if you went back and looked at who in the past typically come in and benefited from this program, I think you find some of your area groundwater conservation districts and water utilities that have done so. This is the program through which the money has been provided to TAWC for their continued operations. They, I'd say, have been treated somewhat different and more specially than by the legislature in the past, in that they are a long-term demonstration project that's been funded through the board. I know I'm speaking on behalf of all the board members to say that we are pleased to continue to support the Alliance. We think what they're doing is hugely important for this part of the state. And so we're going to continue to support them any way we can.